In the middle of the San Francisco Bay, shrouded in thick fog, lies Alcatraz Island. Known as the Rock, it was once America's most notorious prison, housing some of the most dangerous criminals in history. From 1934 to 1963, Alcatraz was the final stop for those who had terrorized the nation, from crime lords like Al Capone to ruthless gangsters like George Machine Gun Kelly. But when the prison shut down, the island didn't rest. Today, ghostly sightings, eerie sounds, and chilling encounters tell a tale of spirits who refuse to leave. One of the most haunted places in Alcatraz is D Block, home to solitary confinement, or the Hole. Among these cells is the notorious Cell 14D, known for its punishing isolation. Inmates in solitary were stripped of their clothes and left in total darkness for up to 2 weeks. According to former guards, the suffering that took place in Cell 14D may have left something behind. There's a chilling story from the 1940s about an inmate placed in Cell 14D for a brief period. After the guard locked him in, he began to scream. He shouted that something with glowing eyes was staring at him from the shadows. His pleas grew desperate, but the guards dismissed it as a scare tactic. The following morning, the guards found the man dead. His eyes were wide with terror, his face frozen in a horrified grimace. No one could explain how he died, but to this day, visitors report feeling a heavy presence in Cell 14D. Some say they feel invisible hands brushing against them, or they hear faint whispers in the dark. Paranormal investigators have recorded sudden temperature drops, and ghost hunters consider 14D to be one of the most haunted cells in America. Al Capone, the infamous crime lord of the Prohibition era, was also confined to Alcatraz, serving his sentence on the Rock for tax evasion. Capone was a powerful man outside, but here he was isolated and vulnerable. In an attempt to stay sane, he picked up the banjo and played it regularly in the prison's shower rooms, one of the only places he could play in relative peace, away from other inmates who might wish him harm. Since his death, many have reported hearing the faint strains of banjo music drifting through Alcatraz's halls, especially near the shower rooms. Tour guides, visitors, and guards have all described hearing the eerie sound of Capone's banjo coming from empty rooms, filling the silence with a lonely melody. Ghost hunters have tried to debunk it, but the sound remains unexplained. Some believe Capone's spirit lingers in Alcatraz, where he's condemned to an eternity of isolation, plucking away at his banjo in the shadows. Over the years, many tried to escape Alcatraz. Some succeeded, some didn't, and for 3 men, their fate is still unknown. In 1962, Frank Morris and brothers John and Clarence Anglin executed one of the most famous prison escapes in history. They chipped away at their cell walls with makeshift tools, crawled through a utility corridor, and vanished into the waters surrounding Alcatraz on a homemade raft. The guards who discovered their escape reported strange activity in their abandoned cells. Some said they could hear faint voices at night, as though the men were still plotting their getaway. Others heard the sound of metal scraping, as if someone was picking away at the wall. On quiet nights, visitors to Alcatraz have claimed to see shadowy figures in C Block, where Morris and the Anglin brothers were held. They appear briefly, lurking in the corner of one's eye, then vanish just as suddenly. Some believe these shadows are the spirits of the escaped men, stuck forever in Alcatraz, haunting the very cells they left behind. Another eerie tale from Alcatraz is the sound of a woman crying. Alcatraz was an all-male prison, but many visitors, guards, and even park rangers have reported hearing a woman's sobs echoing in the empty hallways. The sound has been described as heart-wrenching, a mournful wail that drifts through the prison and fades just as mysteriously. One story comes from a group of tourists who were exploring the prison's recreation yard. They heard what sounded like a woman's cry coming from one of the empty cells. Confused and a bit unnerved, they asked their tour guide about it, but the guide assured them there was no woman on the island. The sobs have yet to be explained, leading some to speculate that it could be the ghost of a wife or mother who visited Alcatraz to see a loved one, perhaps unaware that she's now part of the prison's dark legend. It's not just the prisoners who seem to haunt Alcatraz. The former guards themselves have reported strange occurrences, adding to the prison's dark reputation. One former guard recounted hearing footsteps echoing down an empty corridor. When he turned to look, no one was there, yet the steps continued, pacing him step for step until he was nearly running out of the building. Other guards have spoken of cold drafts suddenly enveloping them or hearing doors slam shut with no explanation. Some believe that the spirits of guards who lost their lives during prison riots, including the infamous 1946 Battle of Alcatraz, are trapped on the island. During the battle, several guards and inmates died, and many believe that their spirits remain there, locked in the eternal struggle between guard and prisoner. Alcatraz even had a small chapel, a quiet place intended to provide solace in a dark place. But today it is said to be one of the most haunted parts of the prison. Some visitors have reported hearing prayers whispered in the dead silence, as though unseen lips were reciting verses. Others claim to have seen faint figures dressed in old guard uniforms, standing by the walls, their heads bowed in reverence or resignation. Today, Alcatraz is a popular tourist destination, drawing thousands of people curious to see the prison that once housed America's worst criminals. Yet while visitors marvel at the grim cells and harsh conditions, many report leaving with an eerie feeling, as though they are being watched. Paranormal investigators have conducted numerous studies, recording strange noises, cold spots, and other unexplained phenomena.